Hello and welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Soccer Podcast. We're talking Wednesday's Premier League slate at DraftKings, 3-game slate. We're not talking we're not talking Champions League. Ryan Belangi is going to be doing an article for Champions League. So if you want Champions League content, just go to rotowire.com. That article will be up later Tuesday, early Wednesday. So check that out. But we're talking Premier League today. And we had to get it in because the slate just came up. And yeah, so I'm Zdroik, joined by AJ Scholz. AJ, welcome back. We previewed Tuesday's slate, which is currently going on right now, the Champions League slate, but now we're doing Premier League. So we're just jumping everywhere. Welcome back.
Yeah. Thanks for having me back on. I know you looked at where my lineup was in the first half and decided it was good enough to have me come back on. So, but no, yeah, fun to be doing more of these lately. Happy to help out and keep working on them.
And unfortunately, as you speak, Danny Parejo just scored for Villarreal, and I pointed him out in yesterday's podcast that, he had no upside, and I think he scored from the run of play. So he just scored his first goal of the season from the run of play. So congratulations to everyone who used him for his corner kicks. He just scored his first goal from open play this season. But so hopefully that does not happen as we discuss this slate. But if you're watching on YouTube, I got the cheat sheet pulled up. You can get that rotowire.com/soccer trial, free 10-day trial, no credit card required. But the odds, this is a Liverpool slate. There's no way around it. Everything points to Liverpool. They're going against a team that's allowed at least 3 goals in the last 3 matches and leads. So I'm going to read off the implied goal totals here. Liverpool 2.68 implied to score. So that's very high. That match is at 3.54 total, and the other matches are sitting around 2.5. But for Tottenham, they're at Burnley. They're at 1.58. Crystal Palace at Watford, slight favorites, 1.32. And then you got the underdogs. Watford are at home. Burnley are at home. Watford's at 1.15. Burnley, 1 goal. Leeds away to Liverpool, 0.87. So, man, cash game. The strategy here is just fit as many Liverpool guys into your lineup as possible. And we have to start with Mohamed Salah because he has almost minus 200 odds to score. Like, if you want to compare this to the slate we were just talking about, I think Timo Werner was 10,000 in that slate. I mean, not a great comparison, but this is more like a Robert Lewandowski comparison here. I think Lewandowski was maybe 10,000 for the Champions League slate last week. So, and he's probably around that minus 200. Obviously, he flopped, but different situation, different leagues. Do we want Salah here? 10.6K. He had 8 shots last game, 6 chances created. He only had 1 goal, but he had a floor of almost 20 points. So do we fade Salah in cash games? I don't know. It seems risky at this point.
I agree. It definitely seems risky. I think ultimately the answer is no. But I will say, if you want to do it, the fact that you have Son available for Tottenham, there's a play where it can make sense. Son, the goal line, he's plus 155, so he's nowhere near where Salah's numbers are. Harry Kane is actually the more likely to score based on the goal scoring odds and is significantly cheaper. But Son has more of those crosses and slightly higher floor per 90 minutes than Salah, like infinitesimally higher. So that's your play if you want to fade Liverpool. Not sure it's the right call, especially, you mentioned the implied goal totals. Liverpool has a higher implied goal total than the 2 other matches like combined, right? So clearly they're going to score. And I do think Salah's the play here. I mean, again, if you want that roster flexibility, Sadio Mane, almost 2,400 less. minus 135. So that's over a 50% chance that he'll score, but he's not going to have the same shot total that Salah will have. So there are options. There's options if you want them. I don't know that they're the right choice. I think I probably will stick with Salah cash game for sure. But there are options out there.
Yeah, so you just jumped right into Son right there at 10.4K. So I guess I'll go. You mentioned this before the podcast, and I have the stat here that Tottenham have not scored more than one goal at Burnley in their last 4 trips. So like people are going to be looking at Tottenham. Like I think obviously it's a GPP route. I don't know about cash games, but just in general here, people will be looking at Tottenham. They just won 3-2 at Manchester City. But, we can look at the odds and they're favored and all this, but 1.58 implied goal total, not a huge total. And it's a completely different matchup. Like Tottenham scored 3 goals on the counter against Manchester City. They might have scored on all their shots on goal. Like this is a completely different matchup. Burnley isn't going to have 70% of the possession here. And like there's a reason Tottenham have not scored more than 1 goal in recent meetings. Like Burnley are a defensive team. They mostly sit back. I guess they played in the cup the last time these teams played. They haven't played in league play yet, but they played in October in a cup match. Tottenham won 1-0, but they only had 10 shots. There's 5 total corners in the match. Like basically nothing happened. Obviously, again, different manager at that point for Tottenham, different players. I think they actually started Brian Gill. I guess he got hurt after 25 minutes, but they started Lo Celso, the Villarreal forward that we were just talking about. I mean, not a 1-to-1 comparison, but just the way Burnley play, I think going off, I don't know, I kind of just think going full Liverpool is the best route. Like I don't want to spend on Hurricane's in form. He's playing great. I just don't want to spend 9.6 on him in this spot when like you can get Luis Diaz 300 cheaper, but you can also get Sadio Mane for 8,200. Like the prices don't seem correct for the most part. Like I mean, if we're just looking at the odds on the cheat sheet here, Mane has the second best odds to score, and he's 8,200. So should we try and get Mane and Salah into our lineup, or is it only possible to get one? Because a lot of this depends on what you're going to do at defender. If you want Trent Alexander-Arnold, if you want Robertson, do you think playing for the goals in this spot against Leeds in case Liverpool, get 3 or 4, playing for big matches from 2 Liverpool forwards is the route? You think that's the best way to go?
I do. I really do. I think this could be a really one-sided matchup. And look, I've got my, my lineup in front of me here. You can get Salah, Mane, and Robertson in. You got to make some sacrifices in some other spots. Kind of going the high-low route here, but it's certainly doable. And so I think might as well get the 2 guys sitting on top of that goal scoring odds. And then, the one thing, you mentioned obviously defenders, and we can talk about that a little bit more, but I don't think you're getting TAA in. So, you can get Robinson though, and make it work. So I think it's worth it to stack that heavily in Liverpool for this one for the high score. As I said, there are other options out there. Another guy that, that I looked at maybe a little bit was Conor Gallagher for Crystal Palace, 8,100, a little further down in the price range. He's got the best odds of our projected starters for goal scorers for Crystal Palace. They have a decent matchup there with Watford, pretty even match. So again, there's plays if you want them. But I agree with you, Adam. I think heavy Liverpool is really ultimately the route I think you got to go.
Yeah, I mean, if this was a different matchup, I'd maybe think something else. But we have the recent results for Leeds against Liverpool. Like they played earlier in the season, September, at Leeds. I guess there was a Pascal Strike red card, but that was in the 60th minute. So there's still a decent amount of information from that match in which Liverpool had 30 shots. They had an expected goals of 4.12. Yeah, I mean, they won 3-0. And then even going back to last season, in this same matchup at Liverpool, Liverpool won 4-3. So it just doesn't seem like Salah had a hat trick in that match. It just doesn't seem like Leeds have the defense to actually limit what Liverpool do, unless they really change things up from what's been happening. Because what Leeds were, they went down 2-0 against Manchester United, then they came back 2-2, and then they allowed two more against Manchester United and lost that one 4-2. And this is following a couple poor performances as well. Like they lost 3-0 against Everton. If you think that Liverpool's getting 3 goals, you got to assume they're going to get at least 20 shots. And if you're getting Mane for 8,200, Diaz is kind of seems like the outlier right here at 9,300 because he's in between. He maybe that's more of the GPP look right there, just because it seems more likely that people will go Salah and Mane just to get 2 pieces of Liverpool attack in there. But if we don't go them, I guess just for cash games here, if we don't go them, can we really spend up? Is there anywhere else even to go? Is Milas Sars at 7,600, Zaha 7,500, Rafinha 7,100? These guys are still fairly expensive in matches that are expected to have fewer goals. Dwight McNeil, Maxwell Cornet are overpriced by an extreme amount, 8,700 and 8,400. Those guys are off the table. I was kind of looking at it. I mean, it obviously depends who starts, but you can get Emmanuel Dennis home against Crystal Palace. He's 6,400. You got Joshua King, 5,300. Depends who starts for Palace, but you got Mateta down there at 5,500. He started a recent match. So you probably don't want to go in that mid range. Is that kind of the line you're thinking too?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think you're better off either you go up top with Liverpool or you go further down. You mentioned Mateta, that's a player that I like here, 5,500, super cheap, decent odds there, and honestly, even sticking with Liverpool. What about, I'll toss out, I know he's more midfielder, but Harvey Elliott here has decent goal scoring odds in this one at 3,200. He's ahead of guys like Gallagher, Wout Weghorst, Zaha. He's got better odds than some of these guys. So I think there's some cheaper options to get into your lineup, even if you do want a Liverpool share. But yeah, for me, I think it's pay up for Liverpool. Maybe there's a play with Son in there, or you go further down and go closer to the bottom. Yeah, to your point, I'd rather go Josh King at 53 instead of Emmanuel Dennis at 64. You could maybe hope for a Burnley upset. You mentioned, or even a draw. You mentioned Tottenham hasn't scored 2 goals in a while. So Jay Rodriguez for Burnley at 5,100. Maybe he snags something further down. So yeah, that's my play at least. Either I'm going to go all the way up or I'm going to go all the way down.
Yeah, even like you said, Harvey Elliott, but I think he's midfield only, so that kind of limits you right there with that option. You could go with the Leeds guys and hope for last season, that 4-3 match, but again, last season, that was when Liverpool had all those injuries, so it's kind of hard to compare that completely. Liverpool are better defensively this season than they were last season, but if you want to go this match is going to have 5+ goals and Leeds are going to hit a couple goals, you could go with Daniel James there at 5,400, Roberts, Gelhardt, one of those guys could start for him. So there are options depending on what Leeds look like. Even Eberechi Easy down here, he's probably not going to start, but yeah, I guess Joshua King. Where's Jay Rodriguez in here? You said 50. Oh, okay. Yeah. So as we're doing this for DraftKings, they have confirmed starters from Opta because this was a rescheduled match, and Jay Rodriguez didn't start that match, so I did not see him. He's at 5,100 here, so that's maybe a problem as we get further here, because I have to click on all here to see the rest of the team. But yeah, I mean, now that I look at it here, Kulishevsky, before we get into other things, Kulishevsky 6,600, Weghorst there is 6,100. So like there are options. Even Westwood was out for this match, so he's 5,800, which is a ridiculous price for him. But I guess, yeah, Rodriguez is probably the cheapest you're going to see here as I scroll. Okay. Yeah, so unfortunately, all of these guys are, we can't see them when we click on positions. So,
well, all the more reason for everybody to head over to RotoWire. Go check out the cheat sheets there. As Adam always says, rotowire.com/free, or you probably say something else, but I always tell people rotowire.com/free, 10-day trial. Cheat sheet has our, little yellow expected dots next to the guys that we expect to be in the lineup, like a Josh King, Jay Rodriguez, but those will obviously flip to green once we have confirmed lineups day of. But just another plug for the cheat sheets over on the site.
Yeah, so if we forget to mention someone from this Burnley-Tottenham match, I'd just blame DraftKings. Let's leave it like that. So if we go Liverpool, heavy Liverpool at forward, and maybe we want like a slice of Robertson, or I'm not sure Alexander-Arnold's going to be possible with that lineup. That kind of means we have to spend down at midfield. So let's just look at the cheaper options first, which, isn't really a normal thing to do, but just in terms of what we're talking about here. So the cheap options we're looking at are, like you said, Harvey Elliott. He may start. I don't know. We'll see what happens on a short week. Like, he didn't play against Norwich, but he started the match before that. Like, if Harvey Elliott starts at 3,200, I think he will be pretty popular. Even if he goes 60 minutes, like, I think that's a viable route. He's cheap, and Liverpool are going to score 3 goals. So otherwise, we got Will Hughes at 3,300, Adam Forshaw 3,300. I mean, these guys are fine. Obviously, we're in the 3K range, so it's no one that really stands out. I do want to say there will be people that look at Josh Brownhill's game log and notice he took some corners, I think, last match, and he scored. But assuming Ashley Westwood is back for this match, is he back for this match, actually? On second thought, he actually has COVID, so he is probably not going to play. I guess Sean Dyche did not know if he was going to play in his press conference. I was just thinking about the weekend for some reason. So, yeah, it looks like Jack Cork will start again. So there's a chance Brownhill is again on. Let me just pull up his stat here, or his numbers. Basically, Burnley to so Brownhill took on Westwood's corner role, which is like a split role with Dwight McNeil last match. He had I think his first Premier League goal in the win against Brighton. But I mean, otherwise, like, a lot of his numbers were from tackles and interceptions. So kind of hard to bank on. And then you're also banking on split set pieces against Tottenham. But he's 4K, so he's an option. Mateus Click is 4,100. Like, we're going to see all these Leeds guys pretty cheap just because they're going against Liverpool. I think they're fine. Like, I don't think it's a complete bust situation here, even going against Liverpool. I think Leeds will, like, Bielsa's team's not going to, sit back and accept a 3-0 loss. Like, I think they're still going to fight. And then before I put this to you, Fabinho's 4,900. He's a guy that, is popping up on the score sheet here, even if he doesn't really have a floor. But now he's increasing in price. He's closer to Jordan Henderson, who's 5,300. So do you have a favorite of any of these cheap guys?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously, I mentioned a couple guys already, but Tom Cleverley, I always kind of find, I look at his price.
No.
He always suckers me in, man. You look at his last 3 games, he's got, 4 shots, 2 on target. Crosses and corners haven't been there the last 3 games, so that's definitely something to be aware of. But he is one that has filled that role at points for Watford. So, I always happen to get suckered into him just because his price tag is usually pretty cheap and the numbers just on, season long per 90 look pretty good. But yeah, be aware if you are going to use him. That corner role seems to have gone away kind of recently. Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely would consider Brownhill at 4 because of that role. Obviously, if that changes and he's not there, ditch that play right away. And then Crystal Palace, they don't have anybody that really stands out to me in the midfield spot at the lower price range. I think I'd rather try and find a way to pay up for like a Conor Gallagher if you're going to go the Crystal Palace route. Again, there's just not anybody that jumps off the page to me in that lower range, other than, like I said, maybe you go cleverly and hope that he gets back in the the corner game.
Yeah, I'm not going to be there. I'm not on that train. Cleverly, I don't know. He's probably gone a full 90 a few times this season, and it seems like Kiko Femenia, the defender, he's 4,900, but he's pretty much taken all corners for Watford since Roy Hodgson took over. So he, like, if you want Watford set pieces, like, he's the route to go. But I mean, as for Cleverly, yeah, he has a few shots and whatnot, but I don't know. Like, you're comparing that with 4,500. Like, you could just spend up for Fabinho in a better situation. That's extra 400. Like, I might even click a little more. Like, he's depends what kind of role he's in, but even still, like, he was in a more attacking role against Manchester United. He got 7 shots in that match, two chances created. Not going to happen every time, but he's 4,100, so you're not expecting 7 shots. Like, maybe you're expecting 2-3 shots, get 4 or 5 points from him. Well, I want to see what Crystal Palace's midfield looks like, because if Hughes starts, he's not going to be on set pieces because Gallagher is going to be back. But it kind of depends. A lot of this depends on. We got Michael Olisa, who's been on more corners lately. Let's see this match against Chelsea. I think Olisa took. Yeah, he took all of them, but Gallagher didn't play. So it's kind of hard to get a read on what's going on between those guys. I think they're splitting when Olisa and Gallagher both play. Though, all right, well, against Norwich, I guess Gallagher took them all. So it's kind of a situation that's in progress between those guys. No matter, Hughes still doesn't have set pieces, but he's 3,300 and seems to get forward a fine amount. As for Forshaw, same price. He's more of a, you hope for a few defensive stats. Hopefully he doesn't get a yellow card, and hopefully he gets 4 points. But going higher here, James Harrison, 5,900. Sub risk. I had him in that last match. He was subbed off for Rafinha at halftime. That's always a worry. Rodrigo, 6,000. Again, I mentioned Elisa. He's 7,300. Gallagher, I just think Gallagher's too expensive here. Like, he's 8,100. Sure, they're like an away favorite, and it's. I mean, there is a chance he gets all the set pieces, but like, this is 8,100. You're looking at 8,100 for him, or maybe if you're like Sadio Mane's 8,200. Sure, Gallagher has upside, but I don't know. It just seems like a better idea just to get Mane in your team than hope for 10 Crystal Palace corners, and I guess maybe Gallagher gets in the box. He's got a few goals this season, but I just like that route a little more. But yeah, I mean, Gallagher's fine. He's a cash play, I guess, but I still don't like the price there in a match with a 2.5 implied goal total.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely I throw it out there as an option. As I said, I'm going pretty heavy in the forward kind of compliments. Mane and Elliott are my duo in midfield, and um, kind of rolling from there. So I like the Olisa kind of option. But again, with Gallagher back in, does he get the same amount of set piece work? Not really sure. And yeah, I don't love this midfield slate. We were
It's
talking
terrible.
when we talked yesterday, we were saying how the forwards were the kind of the struggle, and today I'm finding myself more struggling with the midfield for options outside of Liverpool, and I really don't see anything that I love, to be perfectly blunt.
Yeah, I mean, if the cash strategy is just to get two Liverpool guys here, so like GPP, you're probably, even if you're thinking Tottenham, like you get Son and Kane in your team, like you're still not going to have money to spend on a midfielder. So the only way, if you like want to spend on a Gallagher or Elisa or anyone over here, like you're this is like a pure GPP route where you're just looking for, you're combining this guy with, like, you'd probably do Gallagher, and if Mateta starts or something up front, like you'd probably get two Crystal Palace guys and hope that that happens, but that it just does not seem like a good route. I don't know, just with how Palace are playing right now and with how more defensive Watford have been under Hodgson. So it's not pretty. And then you throw in Cornet and McNeil at ridiculous prices. So it's like those Burnley guys are basically unplayable, which is unfortunate. Those guys should be like 6K. Like, not that I want to play them, but they're 2,000 overpriced. So that kind of forces you to go to Liverpool even more. It's just another reason.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think I might, probably not cash, but GPP, I might give or have given one of those guys a look, if that price tag was a little bit lower, just to be like, all right, I could see Burnley, a 1-1 draw. You get the right guy in there, maybe pair it up in a GPP, but not at those prices, because you're right. When you're already there, why are you not using Mane instead of one of those other guys? So yeah, I agree. I think they're overpriced, and it's not worth it.
Yeah. So as we move to defender here, I just put together a lineup: Mane, Salah, Alexander-Arnold, and Robertson, and you're basically stuck with three punts and I think Nick Pope is the cheapest goal. Well, I guess you could go to Meslier for Leeds. um, but I don't know if you want to do the full Liverpool stack and then go with Meslier, but I guess maybe you're hoping for 5 saves there. So if you go the Liverpool route, like if you're going the route we're talking about, it's going to be very difficult to go with both Alexander-Arnold and Robertson. And, after the past month of matches, Robertson's price has gotten back up. He's now almost the same price as Alexander-Arnold. He's 7,900. Alexander-Arnold is 8,600. I mean, it was a month ago, home against Brentford, Robertson was 6,000. He was, 5,900, 6,000, even back in December, 5,300. So, man, if you had to pick here, it's almost like you kind of got to go. I don't know. I say got to go, but I guess they're kind of even lately. Do you care, or do you want to save the money with Robertson? Is that the route? I guess, because it's not like TAA has been better than Robertson over the last month.
I mean, that's always my route, right? I continue to push roster flexibility by getting kind of cheaper guys, and the what did we say, 600 or so was the difference there. And I think it just, you can do so much more. It's enough, 700 actually. It's enough of a difference that it maybe takes you from a full-on punt with another guy to something else, or for goalkeeper, it's the difference between it's exactly the difference between using Allison or Hugo Lloris. So if you want to use Allison and you can then go Robinson, there's your straight flip there. So 700 is big. If it was closer to 300-400, I might favor Alexander-Arnold just a little bit, but with that heavy of a price tag, I think for me, Robinson is definitely the play for what it lets you do throughout the rest of your lineup.
Yeah, just trying to, tinker here with the lineup. It kind of depends who it will depend like who you like in your utility spot. Like you'll end up with anywhere between 7,500, 6,500, obviously depending on what the rest of your lineup looks like, for, one of your final spots. So I guess you got to tinker to see who else fits in there, and maybe you'll end up with TAA in your lineup. Maybe you'll end up with Robertson. I'd say if you have the money, go TAA. But I think if you go off of those guys, you got to go down. Is pretty much what it comes down to. So as we're looking at DraftKings here, they have Reguilón with the green check mark, but I don't think he's going to start. He had COVID, so I don't think he's coming back on a short week. Let me see what Sessegnon is 4,300 actually, but he actually hasn't really gotten forward at all, even when he plays. He's an option just because they're playing Burnley, and Ryan Sessegnon is playing as a wing back, so that is possible because you got Emerson Royale at 6,200 on the other side, and then inexplicably I see Charlie Taylor's 5,800, but it's going to be Eric Peters again, who's 4,100. So I say all that as I'm determining who's actually starting for Burnley and Tottenham. As I say that, Kiko Femenia, as I mentioned earlier, he's basically on corners for Watford. He's 4,900. Home against Crystal Palace, you got to think that like that's the way to go. Like 3K cheaper than Robertson, even if no matter who you use. Like if you go with one Liverpool guy, I'd say you just go straight down to Femenia right there, and then fill the rest of your lineup out. Do you think that's? I mean, that's probably the cash route. Like you got a defender here that is on set pieces. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm just going to pull up Femenia's stats here. But what are your thoughts on that?
I definitely think it's in play. For me, I'm not going to use Firmino because I want to pay up so much more at other spots here. And I'm probably leaning a little more GPP in how I'm constructing this lineup, if I'm being honest here. But I think it's certainly an option. It makes a lot of sense to have, grab that guy. I like the idea. I always try and find, if I'm in a big spend mode, which I am for getting those Liverpool shares. Crystal Palace has the third best clean sheet odds. They're not great, but they're still over 30% at 32. So it's certainly possible. And so I keyed in on Joachim Anderson all the way down at the bottom for them, going a center back route so that I have the space to put Robertson in here. He's not going to do a ton for you at 3,000 other than just not breaking the bank. And he's, of the teams that are favored to win, he's the least expensive here. There's a couple leads center backs you could put in, couple Watford and Nathan Collins for Burnley as well. But to pay all the way down and find a center back on a team that could win, you're looking at Anderson here. You could go Nathaniel Klein if you really wanted to, but I mean their numbers are just so similar that there's not really a huge difference. So you might as well save the $100 there.
Yeah, Uh, I'm usually the center back whisperer on this podcast, but I guess you can take that role here with Anderson. I mean, I'd probably go the home route. Like Samir is 2,900. Uh, Nathan Collins is 2,900. Yeah, I mean Crystal Palace are favored, but I don't know. I just seem to bet against Crystal Palace anytime they're away from home, just because I, I say it every time they're on the road. Their only win on the road this season is at Manchester City, which came out of nowhere. So like I don't want to bet on them to randomly turn around, even if it is against Watford. I just think this is going to be a defensive match though. So, going with that center back is possible. Yeah, I mean it's not the worst strategy on the slate. Just pay down at one of your defenders here, hope for a clean sheet, maybe, correlate him with your goalkeeper. Just because like he's paying down at defender, that's going to allow you to spend up at forward. It's going to allow you to spend up at forward at two spots and pay up at defender at your other defender. So yeah, I mean it makes sense to pay down here. You gotta maybe correlate whoever you're picking with your goalkeeper, which we'll just jump into here. But yeah, I mean Firmino, it depends how much. Like he's getting you, 6 to 8 points of a floor, assuming he should be on set pieces. But it depends what the extra 2K is going to do for you. Like what else are you doing with the 2K if you're going down for one of those center backs? Like is like that going to move you to a 5K midfielder? Like who are you spending it on? I mean, a lot of this is just going to depend on the starting 11s, which Liverpool could rotate, Crystal Palace could rotate. So we'll see what happens with those. But like just going through more defenders, Van Dijk 4,500. That's just goal hunting right there for GPPs. That's probably his only route. Matip 4,000. But yeah, so goalkeeper here. You mentioned some of these guys earlier. Alisson 5,900, clean sheet percentage is 43%, which I actually think is high for just the matchup against Leeds. 43%, like we just saw Chelsea home against Lille, 50% clean sheet chance. They won 2-0 today. I'm not sure, like I don't know if I want to compare Leeds against Lille, but 5,900, I'm not sure. Are you going to be able to spend up on Alisson at 5,900? Like, would you rather, like, if Liverpool score 4 goals, let's say they win 4-0, like Alisson, let's say he gets 2 saves, that's 14 points right there. But if Liverpool get 4 goals, like you're going to get floors of 10 plus and then goals assist for pretty much all of Liverpool's attackers. So I guess on the other end of that, if you go Alisson, maybe you're kind of hoping for a 1-0, 2-0. But even then, I don't know. As I read off the stats before, like Liverpool had 30 shots in this prior matchup. So I assume you don't have money for Alisson, but what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, part of me is just gonna learn from experience from today. I was off Mendy because he was, about 1,100 higher than Chesney, and so I went Chesney instead, and that did not pan out in terms of.
I told you to play Mendy.
You did, and so I'm learning from my mistakes here, and so that clean sheet percentage is high enough for me that I'll go with Alisson in this one. The gap is not as high. I think that's part of it too. Like I said, it's only it's 700 to Hugo Lloris. That's a big difference between what we saw in UCL today. So, and again, Tottenham I think they'll control the game. I think it'll go well, but I also feel like, that's a trap match to me. There's something about that. And maybe I'm just eye test, talking here, but I feel like Burnley could get one. And I don't love the idea of going with Loris. Been burned by him in the past. Maybe I've got some concerns about that, but I think Alisson makes sense even at the price tag because he's he's not just outrageously priced compared to the next closest, as we saw earlier today.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you don't even want to look at the Leeds name and just look at the percentage, 43%, and then you look at Tottenham, 37%, like you said, like if we throw the names out, we just look at the odds, it almost makes more sense to play your Reese here. But that's probably going to be, well, I don't know, 5,200. That's still okay. That's fine, I guess. Uri's at 5,200. I was gonna say that's probably the sharp move, but I think a 3-game slate. I think it'll be pretty varied here as we see goalkeeper selection. I think Alisson will get some attention, but it's not going to be that high just because of the potential of a ton of goals for Liverpool and how expensive all their players are. I kind of like as you said. Just in terms of, I mean, like if you take this Liverpool route, you're basically already fading Tottenham. So I think Nick Pope's probably going to be the most popular goalkeeper in cash games. I don't know about GPPs, but like 4,300, like it just makes sense because you have the Liverpool guys. Like you're not going to have Son, you're not going to have Kane. Like why not just go on the opposite route, Tottenham here? Like Tottenham 1.58 implied goal total. That's not a lot. I already mentioned the numbers between these teams. And like Pope's a guy where, for the most part, like he's getting multiple saves every match. So even if he allows one goal, like I think I said it the last podcast, even, I don't think he's had negative points all season. So why don't you just spend down, hope for 5 saves, maybe a clean sheet win. That's a stretch. But even if he allows one goal, like you're still looking at 5 points. And at the end of the day, I mean, it depends if that 5 points is worth it compared with like maybe Tottenham get the 1-0 win for 900 extra bucks for your Reese. Maybe the same happens for Liverpool, but on the other end of that, Pope is allowing you to get both Mane and Salah and a top end defender. So, I mean, you got to look at the rest of your squad and see what kind of makes sense, what fits. You got to tinker around, see if you want a center back, see if you want Firmino. So, I mean, this seems like more of a correlation slate, I want to say, than other ones, just because, like, you got Liverpool and then these other 2 matches are defensive. So, but I think that's a lot of it here. We have any thoughts here? Our cash move is Liverpool. Do you have like a preferred GPP method? Do you think the GPP method is actually to go with Liverpool, but maybe, sneak in Luis Diaz, get a midfielder in there, hope a midfielder scores kind of thing, or even, obviously the fade Salah route, but maybe get both TAA and Robertson and Alisson, get a clean sheet, hope for some saves. Those guys get assists. Maybe TAA gets a free kick goal. Like I'm just giving all these possibilities here, but do you have a favorite?
I think I tend, rather than just going the full, off Liverpool option, I'd rather, like you said, maybe fade Salah, build out in other places. And maybe take a look, back to the odds. Wout Weghorst, 6,100, not outrageous. You get him in for Burnley, and kind of do a mini Tottenham fade as well. Especially that would go well if you're going to go with Pope instead of Alisson or Lloris. So you could make that work as well. So, but yeah, overall, I think it's more about tinkering with which guys you use from Liverpool rather than, moving off them or trying to go something else.
Yeah, that's why I kind of think Luis Diaz might be. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what their percentages are, because you got Salah up here, then you got Diaz, then you got Mane. So it'll be interesting to see how those are played in cash games and GPPs. But yeah, I think just some option of Liverpool is the best route. Maybe you could fade Salah, go Mane and Diaz. Like, why not? But like usually on Liverpool slates, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this slate because I'm usually like a fade Salah guy. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But just these other matchups, it just makes sense that this Burnley Tottenham game is going to be low scoring. And Watford have been more defensive under Hodgson, and what Palace haven't scored in like the last couple matches here. Like they're some reason, I don't know if they're playing more defensive but they're not scoring as much as earlier in the season. There's been 4 goals total in Watford's last 4 matches. So like these games have a low implied goal total, and it seems like there's not going to be a lot of goals in them. But on the other end, it seems like Liverpool are going to score 3, are going to score 4. So cash games, GPPs, go Liverpool, and just decide on what ones you like for each. Go with the big names, regulars in cash games, and then switch it up in GPPs, something like that, and hope you get Thiago or Fabinho, random guy, to get a brace and take your winnings and run with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I always just hope the random guys I put in get a brace, but that's seems to be the play. Again, like you said, off the top, the implied goal total is just so meh for the rest of these matchups, and none of those teams are really scoring a bunch lately, and yeah, so tweak Liverpool, I think, is the option there.
Tweak Liverpool. All right, that's all we got for today. We talked Wednesday's 3-game slate on the Premier League. I got to get out of here. It's my second wedding anniversary, so I don't want to get yelled at here as it's starting to get dark outside. But so again, we have Ryan Belangi's writing Champions League picks up. Those are going to be on RotoWire. They're going to be locked, so you got to get the free trial if you aren't subscribed. But I assume if you're listening to this, you are subscribed. But if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to give those thumbs up. Listening podcast form, we haven't seen there hasn't been as many reviews at Apple for our podcast lately, but let's get some reviews in there. I don't know if you can actually review twice over a certain amount of period, but yeah, if you like what we're doing, please let us know. And we're trying to get the information to the people. That's why we're here. That's why we're here doing podcasts during Champions League matches. I'm doing a podcast before my anniversary dinner, so that's the kind of dedication we have at RotoWire. That's what we give to you, the people. But thanks for listening, everyone. AJ is at AJ Scholz 24 on Twitter. I am at Zdroik. Thanks for joining me, AJ, and we'll see everyone for Premier League Saturday this weekend. Thanks again.